Omar Reyes had always
I wish
chased
you
the
were here
spotlight
right
like
now.
it was the only thing that could keep him warm in Seattle's endless gray. Born in a cramped apartment in the Central District, where the scent of his mother's tamales mixed with the hum of immigrant dreams, he had clawed his way from open mics at the Tractor Tavern to sold-out shows at the Showbox. His voice, a raw blend of soulful R&B and indie folk that cut like a winter wind, had caught fire on TikTok during the pandemic, viraling a cover of an old Billie Holiday tune that amassed millions of views overnight. By 25, he was headlining his own EP release, Echoes in the Rain, a collection of tracks that peeled back the layers of his queerness like onion skins, each one stinging with the truth of loving men in a world that still whispered judgments. But success had a shadow, and that shadow wore the face of Ethan Hayes, his manager, his lover, his everything. Ethan was 32, with the kind of effortless charisma that turned heads in boardrooms and backrooms alike, tall and lean, with sandy blonde hair that fell just shy of professional, blue eyes that could disarm a record exec or melt Omar during pillow talk. They had met 3 years ago at an industry mixer in Belltown, where Omar was nursing a gin and tonic, nerves frayed from a botched audition. Ethan, then a rising talent scout for Indie Wave Records, had slid onto the stool next to him, his knee brushing Omar's under the bar in a way that was anything but accidental. "You sing like you're bleeding," Ethan had said, his voice low over the din of networking chatter, eyes locking onto Omar's with an intensity that made the room fade. "And the world's gonna lap it up." That night, they ended up in Ethan's loft overlooking Elliott Bay, the city lights blurring into constellations as hands explored and breaths mingled. It was messy, urgent, the kind of sex that rewrites your history. By morning, Ethan had pitched Omar's demo to the label, and just like that, the contracts came rolling in. But it wasn't just business. Between the clauses and copyrights, they carved out stolen moments, weekend getaways to the San Juan Islands, where they hiked misty trails hand in hand, far from prying eyes, lazy Sundays in Omar's Queen and War Cup, cooking breakfast burritos while arguing over set lists. Their relationship was a secret etched in NDAs and sideways glances. In public, Ethan was the polished handler, barking orders into his earpiece during sound checks, his touch limited to a firm pat on the shoulder that lingered a beat too long. Privately, he was the anchor, whispering affirmations into Omar's ear as stage fright clawed at his gut. "You're not just a voice, Omar. You're a goddamn revolution." Those words had fueled Omar's rise, from regional tours to national buzz, his latest single Shadow Lover climbing the Spotify charts, a veiled ode to the man who held his heart in a vice. Yet lately, the vice had tightened into something cruel. It started small, Ethan's texts growing curt, late nights at the office stretching into dawns without explanation. Omar would wake to an empty bed, the sheets cold, only a note scrawled on label stationery, deals to close. "Love you." But the love you felt scripted, like a lyric forced into a bridge that didn't fit. Then came the whispers from the crew, sightings of Ethan at after-parties with a new assistant, a sharp-jawed kid named Riley from marketing, all tattoos and easy smiles. Omar had brushed it off at first, chalking it up to paranoia fed by the isolation of fame. But tonight, as the rain lashed the windows of their shared space in Capitol Hill, a sleek condo Ethan had insisted on for image purposes, the doubt had crystallized. He had come home early from a rehearsal at London Bridge Studio, buzzing from a killer vocal take, eager to share the high. Instead, he found Ethan in the living room, phone pressed to his ear, his laughter booming like thunder. "Yeah, man, you get it. Omar's got the pipes, but we need that edge. Tell me more about your ideas." The voice on the other end was muffled, but the tone, intimate, conspiratorial, twisted like a knife. Omar froze in the doorway, his guitar case slipping from his shoulder with a thud that neither noticed. When Ethan finally hung up, his eyes flicked to Omar, surprise flickering before settling into that professional mask. "Rough night?" Omar asked, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest, forcing a smile as he shrugged off his jacket. Ethan waved it off, crossing the room to plant a kiss on his forehead, chaste, obligatory. "Just strategizing the tour. Riley's got some wild concepts for visuals. You'll love them." Riley. The name landed like a slap. Strategizing, huh? Sounded more like flirting. Ethan's brow furrowed, the first crack in the facade. "What? Come on, Omar. You know how this works. It's all part of the game. But was it? As Ethan poured himself a scotch, rattling on about lighting rigs and playlist placements, Omar felt the ground shift. The man who had once mapped every scar on his body with reverent fingers now spoke in bullet points, his gaze sliding away like oil on water. They ate takeout from Pike Place, salmon rolls that tasted like ash, in silence broken only by the patter of rain. Bedtime came with a perfunctory goodnight, Ethan's back a wall of muscle and detachment. Lying there in the dark, Omar traced the ceiling cracks with his eyes, memories flooding like the tide. Their first real fight, 6 months in, when Ethan had pushed too hard for a collab with a straight-laced pop star, ignoring Omar's qualms about authenticity. This is survival, Ethan had snapped, pacing the kitchen. You want to stay relevant, or fade into obscurity? Omar had stormed out, walking the waterfront until dawn, only to return to Ethan asleep on the couch, a bouquet of wildflowers from the market clutched in his hand. They had made up with slow, aching apologies, bodies reaffirming what words couldn't. But this felt different. Deeper. Like the love that had ignited his music was flickering out, leaving him in the cold. By morning, as Ethan rushed off to a breakfast meeting, Omar sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through old photos, them at Gas Works Park, silhouettes against the sunset, Ethan surprising him with tickets to a Mariners game, where they held hands under the bleachers like teenagers. The latest text from Ethan, tour kicks off in 2 weeks. Let's nail this. Nail this. As if their life was just another milestone. Omar set the phone down, heart pounding. He couldn't breathe in this space anymore, the walls closing in with the weight of unspoken fears. He grabbed his keys, the impulse born of pure, desperate clarity. The spotlight had been his salvation, but without Ethan's light intertwined with it, it was just a glare, blinding and empty. He drove aimlessly through Seattle's veins, the viaduct humming under tires slick with rain, ending up at his old haunt, the Comet Tavern in Fremont. The bar was dim, half empty, the jukebox crooning Tom Waits. He ordered a whiskey neat, the burn steadying his nerves, and pulled out his notebook. Words spilled out, jagged and true, verses about lovers who vanish like fog, stages that echo with ghosts. Hours blurred into a haze. By last call, his phone buzzed incessantly, missed calls from Ethan, texts escalating from "Where are you?" to "This isn't funny, Omar. Answer me." He powered it off, the silence a balm. Back at the condo, he packed a duffel, jeans, hoodies, his lucky leather-bound journal. A note on the counter, simple and final: "I need space to find my voice again. Don't follow." As he slipped into the night, the rain washing his face like tears he refused to shed, Omar didn't look back. The city swallowed him whole, a labyrinth of neon and shadows, and for the first time in years, he felt the raw pulse of freedom. But deep down, in the chamber where hope clung like ivy, he wondered if Ethan would wait, or if this was the end of their song. The drive south on I-5 felt eternal, the evergreens blurring into a green haze under sodium lights. Omar aimed for Portland, a city of bridges and reinvention, where he could busk on the streets or crash with an old college buddy from Lewis and Clark. His music had always been about escape, after all, fleeing the expectations of his family, the sidelong glances in Latino neighborhoods where being gay was still a whisper. His father, a stoic mechanic from El Salvador, had died when Omar was 12, leaving behind lessons in resilience wrapped in silence. His mother, Rosa, now waitressing double shifts at a diner in Kent, had hugged him tight the day he came out at 18, her only words, "Mihijo, you shine no matter what." She didn't know about Ethan, though, that secret was too tangled in the glamour. Portland welcomed him with drizzle and the scent of craft coffee. He checked into a no-frills motel on Burnside, the room smelling of stale smoke and possibility. Sleep came fitful, dreams laced with Ethan's face, smiling, then stern, then gone. Morning brought clarity. He emailed his label contact, a vague note about personal hiatus, buying himself time before the tour machine ground into gear. Ethan would handle the spin, of course, that was his job. But the thought stung, a reminder of how intertwined their worlds had become. he wandered the Pearl District, street art splashing color against brick walls, stopping at a farmer's market for fresh marionberries and a journal entry under a willow tree. The words flowed freer here, unburdened by deadlines. By afternoon, he found himself at an open mic at Jackson's pub, guitar in hand, the crowd a mix of hipsters and blue-collar souls. He sang Shadow Lover Unplugged, voice cracking on the bridge, and the room hushed, then erupted. A woman in the front row slipped him her card, scout from a local label. Raw. Real. We need more like that. For a moment, the high rivaled any arena roar. But as he packed up, his phone, recharged and betraying, lit with voicemails. Ethan's voice, first laced with worry, "Omar, talk to me. Whatever it is, we fix it." Then anger, "You can't just vanish. The tour's booked. People are counting on you." Finally, raw, "I miss you already. Come home." Home. The word echoed hollow. Omar deleted them all, but the ache lingered, a bruise blooming under his ribs. He crashed at his friend's place that night, a cozy bungalow in Southeast with vinyl records stacked like towers. Javier, a graphic designer with a laugh like summer, poured them beers and listened without judgment. "You deserve someone who sees you, not the star," he said, clapping Omar's shoulder. Days turned to a week. Omar busked on the waterfront, drawing crowds that swelled with each soul-bearing set. Social media buzzed, fans speculating on his mysterious break, but he stayed offline, reclaiming the music as his own. Yet nights brought ghosts. Ethan sent on his pillow, the way his fingers traced Omar's tattoos during quiet hours. Was it pride or fear keeping him away? Or the terror that Ethan had truly stopped loving him, that the laughter on the phone was the prelude to goodbye? One evening, as fog rolled in from the Willamette, Omar sat on a bench near the steel bridge, sketching lyrics about bridges burned and rebuilt. A text from an unknown number, "Saw your post. Proud of you. E." He hadn't posted anything, but the label must have leaked a clip. The simplicity cracked him open, tears mixing with the mist. He typed back, fingers trembling, "Proud of what? Running?" The reply came swift, of being brave enough to feel. Brave. The word hung there, a lifeline or a noose. Omar pocketed the phone, standing to face the river, its surface rippling like unresolved chords. Seattle called him back, a siren song of what ifs, but Portland held him, a cocoon for the man beneath the myth. Little did he know, across the border in a rain-soaked high-rise, Ethan stared at the same message, heart-fracturing in the silence, waiting for the melody to return. The Portland fog clung like a lover reluctant to let go, but by the 10th day, Omar felt its embrace turning cloying, a reminder that reinvention required motion. He packed his duffel lighter than before, fewer ghosts, more resolve, and hitched a ride south with a fellow busker named Lena, her van a rolling mural of protest stickers and ukulele cases. They swapped stories over thermoses of black coffee, her tales of touring the Midwest with a folk-punk band echoing his own unspoken yearnings. "Fame's a jealous bitch," she drawled, merging onto I-5. "Eats the quiet parts of you first." Omar nodded, watching the cascades rise like jagged teeth against the sky. The quiet parts, that's where Ethan lived, in the pauses between applause, the off-stage glances that said more than any contract. He hadn't responded to that last text, the one about bravery, letting the void speak for him. But the void whispered back, filling with what ifs that twisted sleep into a battlefield. They parted in Eugene, Lena pressing a mixtape into his hand, for the road less spotlighted, and Omar caught a Greyhound to San Francisco, the city of fog-shrouded hills and hidden heartbreaks. The bus rattled through wine country, vineyards stretching like veins pumping golden light, and for the first time, he let himself scroll the news. His single had peaked at number 12 on Billboard Alternative, fans trending "Where is Omar Ayers" with fan art of him as a ethereal wanderer. Ethan, ever the architect, had spun the absence into mystique, a press release about artistic exploration. Exploration. If only Ethan knew how literal it had become. In the Mission District, Omar found a sublet through a Craigslist ad, a sunlit studio above a taqueria, walls papered in vintage concert posters, the air thick with cumin and possibility. His first night, he cooked arroz con pollo from his mother's recipe, the sizzle of onions a tether to roots, and strummed idly on the fire escape, the city's pulse thrumming below. Word spread fast in the queer underground. By week 2, he was gigging at the Castro Theatre for a benefit show, sharing the bill with drag queens and poets, his set a stripped-down confessional that left the audience breathless. Backstage, a producer named Marco, stocky, with a beard like a bramble and eyes that sparkled with mischief, slipped him a card. "We do queer anthems at Velvet Echo. No suits, no bullshit. You in?" The offer tempted, a fork in the road away from Ethan's polished empire. But as Omar lay in the narrow bed that night, sheets tangled from restless dreams, Ethan's face intruded, not the distant manager, but the boyish lover who had once driven them to Big Sur on a whim, parking the rental car on a cliffside to watch stars wheel overhead. "You're my North Star," Ethan had murmured, lips brushing Omar's temple. "Don't ever dim." Dim, was that what Ethan thought he was doing now? Or had the dimming started earlier, in the slow erosion of touches, the way Ethan's hand lingered less on the small of his back during green room waits? Omar fired off a late-night email to Rosa, his first in weeks. "Mummy, I'm finding my way. Miss your hugs. Love, Omar." Her reply came at dawn, "Sin per aqui, mijo. Shine on." San Francisco unfolded like a love letter to his queerness, rainbow crosswalks that felt like permission, bars like the stud where bodies moved fluid and free, no spotlights required. He volunteered at a youth center in the Tenderloin, leading songwriting workshops for trans kids and queer runaways, their stories mirroring his own fractured youth, nights spent in libraries poring over Langston Hughes, hiding dog-eared copies of Giovanni's Room under his mattress. One boy, 16 and fierce with purple-streaked hair, shared a lyric about parental rejection that gutted Omar. "It's like they love the idea of you, but not the real," the kid said, voice steady despite the tears. Omar hugged him then, fierce and wordless, seeing his younger self in the defiance. That night, he wrote Fractured Light, a ballad about loving through the breaks, recording a rough demo on his phone under the hum of neon signs. He uploaded it anonymously to SoundCloud, no promo, just art for art's sake. By morning, it had thousands of plays, comments flooding in, "This is what we need. Heal something deep." Ethan must have heard it, the algorithm was merciless. A voicemail pinged, "Omar, that track. It's you, pure. But we need to talk. The tour's imploding without you." "I'm imploding." The vulnerability cracked through the static, pulling at Omar's resolve like tide on shore. He met Marco for coffee at a Haight Street cafe, the air buzzing with patchouli and possibility. Over lattes frothed with oat milk, Marco laid out the vision, a label focused on BIPOC queer artists, distribution through indie networks, creative control in the artist's hands. "No managers pulling strings," he said, winking. "You steer your own ship." The words landed heavy. Steering alone sounded liberating, but the memory of Ethan's hand on the wheel during long drives, fingers intertwined over the gearshift, stung. That night, at a house party in New Valley, Omar sang the new track live for the first time, the living room packed with strangers turned confidants. Applause washed over him, warm as sunlight, but as he stepped off the makeshift stage, a face in the crowd stopped him cold. Riley, Ethan's assistant, nursing a beer, eyes wide with recognition. "Riley." Omar's voice cut through the chatter, pulse spiking. The kid straightened, tattooed arms crossing defensively. "Omar. Hey. Small world. What the hell are you doing here?" Not accusatory, but edged with the hurt head buried. Riley glanced around, lowering his voice. "Scouting talent for the label. Ethan sent me." "Oh wait, no, that's not." He trailed off, rubbing his neck. "Look, man, has a wreck. Hasn't slept since you left. Thinks he pushed you too hard." "Pushed?" The word echoed the fights, the late nights where Ethan's ambition bordered on obsession. "And you? All those after parties?" Riley's face flushed. "Jesus, it's not what you think. Has straight edge with me, a work only. But yeah, has mentioned you. A lot. Like, in every meeting. Omar searched his eyes, finding no deceit, only awkward sympathy. They exchanged numbers, Riley promising to pass a message, tell him alive. Figuring shit out. As he walked home through fog-draped streets, the city's heartbeat syncing with his own, doubt crept in. Was the laughter on the phone just strategy, or something more? And if it was nothing, why did Ethan's voice in that voicemail sound like a man unraveling? Back in the studio, he poured the confusion into strings and chords, fractured light evolving into a suite of demos that Marco raved over. Freedom tasted sweet, but incomplete, like a harmony missing its root note. Late one night, buzzed on cheap mellow, Omar called Rosa. "Mummy, have you ever loved someone so much it scares you?" Her pause was pregnant with wisdom. "Every day, mijo. With you. With your papa. Love isn't safe, it's the risk that makes it real." Real. The word anchored him as he hung up, staring at the city lights from his window. Ethan had been real once, before the glare of success polished their edges smooth. Perhaps the walking away was the sharpening, the reclaiming. But as sleep claimed him, dreams wove Ethan's silhouette into the fog, waiting, always waiting. Weeks blurred into a rhythm, mornings journaling on Dolores Park, afternoons in the studio laying tracks, evenings lost in the Castro's embrace, dancing at midnight sun, where sweat-slick bodies pressed close without agenda, or quiet dinners at a hole-in-the-wall Oaxacan spot, sharing plates of tlayudas with strangers who became stories. Marco became a fixture, his easy camaraderie a buffer against loneliness. Though nothing romantic sparked, he was a mirror, reflecting Omar's strength back at him. The SoundCloud upload hit a tipping point, drawing emails from agents, bloggers, even a spot on a local NPR affiliate. Omar fielded them with cautious grace, turning down a major label overture that echoed too much of Ethan's world. "Velvet Echo it is," he told Marco over phone in the Richmond. "Small, ours." Marco grinned, clinking glasses. "To ships without captains, or with ones who know when to let go." Let go. The phrase haunted him during a solo hike in Muir Woods, redwoods towering like ancient sentinels, their hush amplifying the echo of his thoughts. He sat on a fallen log, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Ethan's contact. The voicemail played again, him imploding. What if the implosion was mutual? What if the love hadn't stopped, but morphed into something they both feared naming? A text from Riley interrupted, "Hes in SF for a confab. At the Fairmorn. Room 1408. Just FYI. The Fairmorn. Opulent, worlds away from taquerias and fire escapes." Omar pocketed the phone, heart a drum solo in his chest. Not yet, he told himself, descending the trail with legs like lead. But the seed was planted, rooting deep. That night, at a gallery opening in Soma, queer artists reimagining identity through mixed media, Omar networked without the weight of expectation. A curator, Elena, with silver-streaked hair and a voice like velvet, pulled him aside. "Your music, it's activism in melody. We'd love a live score for our next exhibit." He accepted, the collaboration igniting a spark. As the crowd mingled, champagne flutes clinking, he spotted a familiar profile across the room, Ethan, in a tailored blazer, laughing with a cluster of XX. Time fractured. Omar slipped into the shadows, breath shallow, watching the man who had shaped his dreams, unbroken his trust, navigate the room with that effortless grace. Ethan turned, as if sensing the gaze, eyes scanning until they locked. The world narrowed to that moment, blue meeting hazel across the haze of bodies. No words, just a pull, magnetic and merciless. Omar turned away first, heart slamming, fleeing into the night. But the encounter lingered, a chord struck that demanded resolution. Back home, he scrawled feverishly, lines about spotlights that blind, loves that wait in the wings. Sleep evaded him, the city's hum a lullaby turned dirge. Dawn brought decision, face the music, or let it fade. He texted Ethan, "Coffee? 10 a.m., ritual on Valencia." The reply, "there in 5." The steam from Omar's courtado curled like a question mark in the air of ritual coffee, the roaster's hum underscoring the tension as he waited at a corner table, sunlight slanting through the plate glass onto scarred wood. Valencia Street buzzed outside, cyclists weaving past murals, the scent of fresh tortillas wafting from a nearby comal, but inside, time stretched taut. He had arrived early, nerves jangling like loose guitar strings, rehearsing lines that dissolved into silence. What do you say to the man who's been your compass, now suspecting the needle points elsewhere? Ethan pushed through the door at 9:58, scanning the room with that predatory focus honed from years in boardrooms. His eyes found Omar, softening in a way that twisted the knife deeper, relief, raw and unguarded. He looked worn, stubble shadowing his jaw, the blazer from last night rumpled, as if sleep had been a stranger. No entourage, just him, carrying 2 to-go cups like an olive branch. Omar, he breathed, sliding into the seat opposite, setting the drinks down with hands that trembled slightly. God, you look good. The words landed soft, disarming. Omar met his gaze, hazel clashing with blue, searching for the lie. You look like hell. Ethan chuckled, low and self-deprecating, running a hand through his hair. Fair. Haven't slept much. Haven't stopped thinking. Thinking. The title of their story hung unspoken between them, a ghost in the steam. Ethan pushed a cup forward, black coffee, 2 sugars, just how Omar liked it. Small gesture, but it cracked the ice, memories flooding, mornings in Seattle, Ethan brewing Pike Place beans while Omar hummed melodies over scrambled eggs. They sipped in silence first, the ritual a bridge over the chasm. Then Ethan leaned in, voice pitched low. Why, Omar? 1 note, 1 fight, and you're gone? I wake up to an empty bed and a post-it like some bad rom-com. Omar set his cup down, the ceramic clink sharp. It wasn't 1 note. It was the silence. The laughs that weren't for me. The way you looked through me, like I was just another asset on your balance sheet. Ethan's face crumpled, defenses cracking. That's not, Jesus, no. You're everything. The tours, the deals, it's all for us. To build something lasting. Us? Omar's voice rose, drawing glances from the baristas. He lowered it, but the edge remained. Or your empire? Riley on the phone, late nights that stretch forever. I saw the photos, Ethan. The way he looks at you. Ethan recoiled as if slapped, eyes widening. Riley? Hes 24, straight as an arrow, and thinks you're a legend. Those calls were about visuals, neon overlays for the stage, shit to make your shows pop. Nothing more. The denial rang true, but doubt lingered, a stubborn weed. Then why the secrecy? Why pull away when things got big? Ethan glanced away, jaw tightening, the pause heavy with unspoken weight. When he spoke, it was measured, like confessing a sin. The label's pressuring me. Diversity quotas, image consultants whispering about optics. A queer manager with a queer client? They're fine with it on paper, but the whispers. They want me to date someone safe. A woman, preferably. To balance the narrative. I shut it down, but it wore on me. Made me paranoid. I pushed harder at work to prove I wasn't distracted. Omar absorbed it, the pieces slotting unevenly. Paranoia he knew, the fans who loved his music but trolled his Instagram with slurs, the XX who praised his edgy authenticity while eyeing him like a risk. And us? We became the distraction. No. Ethan reached across, fingers brushing Omar's knuckles, electric as ever. We became the reason. But I fucked up hiding it. Pushed you away to protect what we have. The touch lingered, warm and familiar, stirring embers Omar thought banked. He pulled back gently, not ready to ignite. I needed to breathe, Ethan. To remember who I am without the glare. Ethan nodded, eyes glistening. I get it. And I'm sorry. For the silence, the distance. Come back. Let me fix it. Fix it. The offer tempted, a siren call to normalcy. But Omar shook his head, voice steady. Not yet. I'm doing shows here, writing. It's good. Real. Pride flickered in Ethan's eyes, mingled with pain. Velvet Echo? Marcos Place. Word travels fast. Omar confirmed with a nod. Small pond. No sharks. Ethan leaned back, exhaling. You deserve oceans. But if that's what you need, I'll wait. No pressure. The promise hung, fragile as mist. They talked then, lighter, Omar's new tracks, Ethan's label drama, the mariner's losing streak. Laughter crept in, tentative, like sunlight after storm. As they parted on the sidewalk, Ethan pulled him into a hug, fierce and lingering, lips brushing his ear. I never stopped loving you, Omar. Not for a second. Omar held on, inhaling the scent of sandalwood and rain, then stepped back. Prove it by giving me space. Ethan watched him go, a silhouette against the muraled wall, before turning toward his rental car. Omar walked blocks before the tears came, hot and cathartic, the coffee cup warm in his hand like a talisman. The encounter rippled through his days. Marco noticed the shift, the glow in Omar's eyes during studio sessions. Lover boy back in town, he teased, layering bass on fractured light. Omar shrugged, smiling. Something like that. Complicated. Aren't they all? Marco hit play, the track swelling with horns that evoked SF soul. They cut a single by week's end, releasing it under Omar's name with a simple video, him wandering the city, guitar slung over shoulder, intercut with archival footage of queer icons like James Baldwin reading in cafes. The response was electric, playlists adding it, queer media hailing it as a homecoming anthem. Fans flooded his DMs, stories of their own hiatuses, loves reclaimed. One, from a kid in rural Idaho, read, "Your voice made me come out." Thank you. Gratitude swelled, but so did the pull northward. Ethan kept his word, text sparse, supportive, killed it on that track. Miss your voice live. No demands, just presence. Omar replied in kind, sharing snippets of lyrics, building a bridge of words. Yet doubt festered. Late one night, post-gig at the DNA Lounge, sweat-soaked crowd moshing to his set, a fan cornered him in the alley, phone out. Omar. Is it true you're dumping your manager? Spill. The question blindsided, tabloid fodder leaking. Omar extricated politely, heart racing, and called Ethan from a lift. You see this? Ethan's voice was calm, strained. Yeah. Handled it. Some hack from Variety Fishing. They think you're going solo to spite me. Am I? The word slipped out, raw. Silence, then only you know. But ID never hold you back. The call ended, leaving Omar adrift. He spent the next day in Golden Gate Park, Japanese tea garden, a sanctuary of koi ponds and arched bridges. Amid the bonsai, he journaled furiously, verses about choices as chains, love as the key. By dusk, decision crystallized, he would return to Seattle, not as the prodigal, but as the man reborn. The flight north was turbulent, mirroring his gut. Rosa met him at SeaTac, her embrace a harbor. You look stronger, mijo. Over Pozole at her apartment, he confessed fragments, the love, the break, the mending. She listened, eyes wise. Hearts break to grow, like trees in wind. Ethan waited at the condo, not with fanfare, but a home-cooked meal, seared scallops, his attempt at fancy. No, wait, Omar arrived alone first, unpacking in the quiet space that felt less like a cage now. Ethan's text, door always open. No rush. He texted back, tonight. The door swung wide to candlelight and soft jazz, Ethan in sweats, vulnerable. They ate on the couch, knees touching, words flowing like wine. Apologies layered deep, Ethan's for the walls head built, Omar's for the flight without warning. Laughter followed, then touches, tentative, then urgent, bodies rediscovering maps long memorized. In the afterglow, tangled in sheets, Ethan traced Omar's jaw. What now? Omar smiled into the dark. We rewrite the tour. Together. But my terms. Deal. Ethan's kiss sealed it, a vow. But dawn brought reality, emails piling, the machine revving. As they dressed for a label meeting, Omar caught his reflection, eyes brighter, shoulders squared. The spotlight awaited, but now he held the switch. Yet in the elevator down, Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from Riley, confab update, boards pushing for changes. Ethan silenced it, but the shadow lingered. Omar pushed it aside, stepping into the day. Love wasn't perfect, it was the fight to keep it lit. The conference room at IndieWave's Seattle headquarters overlooked the Space Needle, its saucer a defiant gleam against the October gloom, but the view did little to pierce the tension thickening the air like fog off the sound. Omar sat at the polished oak table, flanked by Ethan on one side, his presence a steady heat, and Marco on the other, a bridge from his SF interlude. Across from them, the XX, a phalanx of suits led by Victoria Lang, the label's steely VP, her bob haircut sharp as her gaze, and beside her, a new face, Landon Pierce, head of artist development, with a smile like a shark's and a resume that screamed corporate climber. Victoria steepled her fingers, eyes flicking between Omar and the mock-ups projected on the screen, tall posters with his face ethereal in neon, stage designs pulsing with holographic shadows. Omar's return is gold. The hiatus spun into legend, sales up 40% on the EP. But we need to capitalize. No more vanishing acts. Omar nodded, voice even. I'm here. Committed. But on my terms, full creative on set lists, no ghostwriters, and Velvet Echo co-produces the next album. Murmurs rippled. Landon leaned forward, smile widening. Bold. We love bold. But let's talk scalability. Ethan's vision nailed the virality last time, those TikTok collabs? Genius. We'd like to expand that. Pair you with influencers, maybe a reality tie-in. Ethan shifted, his hand brushing Omar's under the table, a silent anchor. Omar's not a prop. The music leads. Victoria's eyes narrowed, appraising. Of course. But optics matter. The queer angle sells, authentically, but we can't alienate the heartland. Subtlety, Ethan. You know the drill. The word subtlety landed like a gauntlet, echoing the pressures Ethan had confessed over coffee in SF. Omar felt the old paranoia stir, but he held firm, outlining his vision, intimate venues first, building to arenas, with interludes for fan stories, live readings of letters from queer youth, woven into the show like threads in a quilt. Marco chimed in, his passion for community-driven art swaying the room. By meeting's end, concessions were won, creative veto power, a co-label deal with Velvet Echo. Handshakes all around, but as they filed out, Landon's parting shot lingered, great pivot, Omar. Ethan's got the magic touch, keep him close. In the elevator, Ethan exhaled, tension easing from his shoulders. That went better than expected. Proud of you. Omar leaned into him, the descent a brief reprieve. We make a good team. But the win felt fragile, like rice paper over a flame. Back at the condo, unpacking tour gear, guitar cases, lyric binders, Omar caught Ethan staring at his phone, thumb hovering over a delete. Everything good? Ethan pocketed it, forcing a smile. Yeah. Just junk. Doubt flickered, but Omar let it go, pulling him into the kitchen for a ritual, chopping veggies for stir-fry, radio tuned to KEXP. They danced to an old soul coughing track, bodies sinking like they never lost rhythm, Ethan's hands on his hips a promise. Dinner led to the couch, wine loosening tongues, stories of childhoods, Omar's summers at his abulus in East LA, Tamala making marathons under the jacaranda trees, Ethan's waspy upbringing in Bellevue, piano lessons masking a father's disapproval of his sensitive son. I came out in college, Ethan admitted, glass midway to lips. Portland State. Dad didn't speak to me for a year. Said it was a phase. Omar squeezed his thigh. Phases become lives. Yeah. Ethan's kiss was slow, deepening, carrying them to bed where urgency gave way to tenderness, bodies mapping forgiveness in sighs and strokes. Morning brought the tour kickoff, a warm-up gig at Neumos in Capitol Hill, the crowd a sea of familiar faces, fans from his early days, waving signs like "Omar's back, babes." Backstage, Ethan was in element, adjusting mics, hyping the crew, his energy infectious. But Riley hovered, clipboard in hand, his enthusiasm bordering on eager. "Visuals are synced, your cue on the bridge for the lights." Omar thanked him, but as Riley lingered, chatting with Ethan about post-show schmoozing, the old unease stirred. On stage, though, it vanished, lights up, guitar wailing, voice pouring out like rain, shadow lover morphing into fractured light, the audience a chorus of raised phones and tears. Ethan watched from the wings, eyes locked, pride radiating. Post-show buzz was electric, drinks at the Rendezvous, jewel box of a bar with velvet walls and jazz standards. Industry types swarmed, bloggers, podcasters, Omar navigating with Ethan's subtle cues. But Landon appeared, uninvited, clapping Ethan on the back. "Killer night. We need to chat strategy, privately." Ethan hesitated, glancing at Omar. "Tomorrow?" Landon's smile tightened. "Now's good. Quick scotch." Omar waved him off, masking the twinge. "Go. Network." He mingled alone, charming a group of queer journalists, but his eyes tracked Ethan across the room, heads bent close over drinks. Laughter again, that intimate timbre. By the time Ethan returned, flushed, Omar was on his second whiskey, edges blurring. "Sorry," Ethan said, sliding beside him. "Landon's pushing for a docuseries. You in the frame." Omar searched his face. "Sounded fun." Ethan frowned. "What?" The laugh. "Like old times." Realization dawned, Ethan's hand gripping his arm. "Omar, it's nothing. Hair straight, married, and a shark. All business." The denial echoed Riley's, but fatigue crept in, the tour's grind looming, trust a tightrope. "I know. Just tired." They cabbed home in silence, the city lights streaking like tears. In bed, Omar turned away, sleep evading as Ethan's snores filled the dark. Dawn found him at the piano, fingers coaxing a melancholy riff, lyrics forming, betrayal as a slow poison, love as the antidote or the venom. Ethan woke to the melody, padding in with coffee. "New one." Omar nodded, playing through. Ethan's feedback was sharp, loving, suggestions that elevated without overwriting. They workshopped it over breakfast, harmony restored. But the seed of discord sprouted, a leaked email chain, forwarded anonymously to Omar's inbox. "Victoria to Ethan, handle your assets. The boy's volatility could tank us. Discretion, always. Assets." The word burned. Confrontation came that afternoon, post-rehearsal at the Crocodile. "Discretion." Omar hurled the printout, voice cracking. "Is that me? Us?" Ethan paled, snatching it. "Context." "Fuck context. You promised transparency. It's corporate bullshit. I delete them unread." "Liar." Hurt boiled over, Omar's fists clenched. "I walked away once. Don't make me do it again." Ethan stepped close, voice breaking. "I won't." "Swear it." They clung then, apologies in embraces, but the fracture lingered, a hairline crack in marble. The tour bus rolled out next day, Portland first, then Eugene, a caravan of amps and ambition. On the road, proximity bred intensity, late-night song shares, hands intertwined over maps. But Landon's calls persisted, pulling Ethan into virtual huddles, his mood darkening post-call. In Bend, after a show at McMenamin's, the breaking point came. Omar overheard Ethan on the phone in the green room. "Yes, Landon, hell sign. Just need to manage expectations." "Manage?" The echo chilled. He stormed the bus alone, locking the bedroomette, tears hot. Ethan knocked hours later, voice muffled. "Let me in." "Not tonight." The door stayed shut, the miles ticking by like heartbeats. Morning brought olive branches, Ethan at his door with breakfast burritos, eyes red-rimmed. "I fucked up." Landon's pushing a clause, exclusivity on collabs. "I was buying time." Omar let him in, but walls rebuilt. "Buy time for what?" "Us to fade." "No." Desperation laced Ethan's words. "To protect you from their games." The argument raged, voices low to avoid the crew, accusations flying, Ethan's ambition a monster, Omar's insecurity a chain. It ended in silence, the bus humming toward Sacramento, love battered but breathing. That night's gig was raw, Omar's voice edged with gravel, the crowd feeding off the emotion. Backstage, Landon waited, champagne flute extended. "Phenomenal." "Ethan's right, you're gold." Omar sidestepped, eyes on Ethan across the room, Riley at his elbow with a tablet. The tableau twisted, manager, assistant, exec, a triangle excluding him. He slipped out, wandering Sack's old town, river winds cooling his flush. Ethan found him at a bench by the American River, moonlight silvering the water. "Omar. Go back to the party. Please." Ethan sat, close but not touching. "Landon's poison. Hez angling for my job, using you as leverage. I shut him down tonight. Told Victoria if they push, I walk." Omar turned, surprise cutting the anger. "You what?" "For us." "For you." The confession hung, vulnerability bared. Omar searched his face, finding truth in the lines of exhaustion. "Why didn't you say?" "Fear. Of losing control." Omar took his hand, the river murmuring assent. "Control isn't love. Trust is." They walk back entwined, the party a distant hum. In the bus, reconciliation was slow, words first, then touches, reaffirming in whispers. But the betrayal loomed, a shadow on the horizon, as the tour pressed on, miles and melodies masking the storm. The tour bus carved through the Sierras like a silver bullet, pines giving way to the sprawl of Reno's neon desert, but inside, the air was thick with the aftermath of reconciliation, fragile, like frost on glass. Omar stared out the tinted window, the landscape a blur of sagebrush and slot machine billboards, his reflection superimposed, eyes shadowed from fitful sleep, the stubble he hadn't bothered to shave. Ethan's admission in Sacramento had patched the immediate wound, but scars itched, reminders that trust, once frayed, unraveled easily. Ethan moved about the lounge like a man on eggshells, brewing coffee for the crew, cueing playlists of Omar's influences, Nina Simone, Frank Ocean, his touches light, seeking permission. "Need anything?" he asked, hovering at the bedroomette door where Omar nursed his guitar. "Space," Omar replied, softer than intended, the word a reflex now. Ethan nodded, retreating with a ghost of a smile. "Got it." The Reno show at Cargo was a furnace, packed house sweating under strobing lights. Omar set a catharsis of sweat and scream-sung choruses. Fractured light peaked with a wail that shattered something in him, the crowd surging like a living thing. Offstage, Ethan enveloped him in a hug damp with effort, murmuring, "You were fire." But as they toweled off, Landon appeared, unannounced, as always, trailing Riley like a shadow. "Epic." "The energy?" "Electric." "We need to bottle it." His eyes lingered on Ethan, proprietary. Omar excused himself, the praise souring. In the green room, he scrolled fan mail, letters of resonance, but one stood out, a scanned note from a fan in Boise, "Your music saved me from the edge. Thank you for being real." Real. The word anchored him, a counter to the artifice creeping back. They rolled into Salt Lake City under a bruised sky, the Wasatch Range looming like judgmental elders. The venue, the depot, hummed with Mormon-adjacent restraint, opening act a wholesome indie band, but Omar's queer anthems ignited the undercurrent, bodies loosening in the pit. Post-set, a meet and greet turned intimate, fans sharing tattoos of his lyrics, a non-binary teen gifting a beaded bracelet woven with echoes. Ethan watched from afar, pride softening his features, but when Landon cornered him by the merch table, that clause, "Ethan, sign it, or we recast the tour," Omar overheard, the word slicing through the chatter. He pulled Ethan aside in the alley, air crisp with October chill. "Recast? What the fuck?" Ethan's face drained. "It's nothing. Bluff. Lies again." Omar's voice rose, echoing off brick. "Tell me straight." Ethan sighed, leaning against the wall. "Landon wants me sidelined. Thinks I'm too invested, personally. Pushed a non-compete if I balk. Personally." The implication hung, laced with their secret. "Because of us?" "Yes." Ethan met his eyes, unflinching. "And no. Hes gunning for power. Using whatever he can." Omar paced, boots crunching gravel. "Then quit. Walk like you said." "I can't. Not mid-tour. It'd tank you." "Me?" Omar stopped, hurt flaring. "Or your career?" "Both." Ethan's hand reached, but fell short. "Omar, please." The plea broke him, not with anger, but sorrow. "I didn't walk away to drag you down. But I won't be the reason you stay caged." He stormed back inside, the meat lingering in forced smiles. That night, in the hotel, a sterile chain off I-80, Omar packed silently, duffel half full when Ethan knocked. "Don't. Need air." Omar brushed past, checking into a separate room, the isolation a cold comfort. Sleep came in fragments, dreams of spotlights flickering out, Ethan fading into darkness. Dawn brought a text, "Coffee in lobby?" "Talk." They sat in stiff armchairs, styrofoam cup steaming, the lobby empty save for a lone businessman. Ethan spoke first, voice raw. "I called Victoria. Told her about us. Full disclosure." Omar blinked, cup pausing. "You what?" "Said him in love with my artist. If that's a problem, fire me." The confession landed seismic, shifting the ground. "And?" "Meeting tomorrow. But whatever, I'm done hiding." Omar searched his face, finding resolve where fear once lurked. "Why now?" "Because losing you twice? Unbearable." Ethan's hand covered his, steady. "You're worth the fallout." They returned to the bus together, the crew none the wiser, but a new undercurrent thrummed, liberation laced with dread. Denver greeted with golden aspens, the Ogden Theatre a Gothic jewel where Omar's set wove vulnerability into triumph, the crowd chanting lyrics like prayers. Backstage, Victoria's call came, "Keep him." But discretion off stage. Ethan relayed it with a wry grin. "Their discretion, our terms." Relief bloomed, but Landon seethed, his sabotage subtle, delayed riders, misrouted gear. In Kansas City, amps failed mid-rehearsal, forcing an acoustic pivot that Omar turned into magic, but the strain showed, Ethan's jaw clenched, snapping at techs. The breaking came in St. Louis, after a sold-out pageant show. Landon pulled Ethan into a quick chat at the hotel bar, voices rising, "You're sentimental. Hell burn out without structure." Omar intervened, sliding onto a stool. "Structure? Or control?" Landon's smile faltered. "Omar. Join us." "No thanks." He faced Ethan. "Walk away." Ethan stood, glass untouched. "Done." To Landon, "Resign my notice. Effective now." The exec blustered, threats of blacklisting, but Ethan was steel. "Try it. See how the queer community rallies." They left arm in arm, the night air electric. In their suite overlooking the arch, steel rainbow under moon, celebration turned carnal, bodies fierce with victory, love reclaimed in gasps and grips. "Free," Omar whispered against Ethan's skin. But freedom had teeth. News leaked, Ethan's exit splashed across Variety, manager quits amid tour drama. Speculation swirled, burnout, affair rumors pinning on Riley. Fans defended, but trolls amplified, slurs flooding Omar's feeds. In Chicago, at Talia Hall, the show faltered, Omar's voice cracked on Shadow Lover, emotion overwhelming. Backstage, he collapsed into Ethan's arms, sobs racking. "They're coming for us." Ethan held tight. "Let them. We've got the music." Marco flew in, bolstering with Velvet Echo Logistics, interim management, a pivot to smaller, soulful venues. "Your call," he said over deep dish pizza in Wicker Park. "We build slow, strong." Omar nodded, resolve hardening. But isolation crept, calls from Rosa worried, the papers, Miho. And Javier texting support from Portland. Ethan, jobless, poured into co-writing, their first joint track, Unshackled, a duet of defiance. Nashville brought balm, Bluebird Cafe, intimate as confession, where legends like Omar nursed beers and swapped stories. A picker named Harlan, grizzled with silver hair, shared a tale of loving a man in the Bible Belt shadows. Came out late. Worth every scar. Inspired, Omar debuted Unshackled Unplugged, Ethan harmonizing from a stool, their voices twining like vines. The room hushed, then erupted, videos viraling, fans claiming it as anthem. Atlanta pulsed with heat, the Variety Playhouse a crucible where doubt ignited into blaze. But post-show, a package waited, anonymous, content spilling, photos of Ethan and Landon at a gala, arms slung casual, dates predating the tour. Forged? Or truth? Omar confronted, photos trembling in hand. Explain. Ethan blanched. Old. Prius. Hes fishing. Doubt. The word escaped, poison. Argument exploded, accusations, denials, tears. You always suspect. Ethan roared. Because you hide. Omar countered. He fled to the balcony, city sprawl mocking his smallness. Ethan followed, voice breaking. I hid to protect. But no more. They talked till dawn, peeling layers, Ethan's fear of abandonment, rooted in his father's silence, Omar's terror of erasure, from family whispers to industry gloss. Dawn brought truce, therapy, together, couple sessions via Zoom, a queer counselor in LA guiding the mend. The tour wound east, wounds cauterizing in motion. In DC, at 9:30 Club, Omar dedicated the encore to the man who waited, Ethan in the crowd, eyes shining. But crisis peaked in Philly, a protest outside the TLA, conservative group decrying gay propaganda, signs waving hate. Omar addressed them onstage, voice steady and music heals. Hate hardens. Choose. The crowd drowned them in cheers, but backstage, Ethan broke, what if they win? Omar pulled him close. They won't. We do. New York loomed, the crescendo, Madison Square Garden, a dream scaled down to intimate halls, but pressure mounted. Landon sued, breach of contract, news hitting like shrapnel. Ethan lawyered up, but stress-etched lines on his face. In the Bowery, pre-Bowery show, Omar found him on the fire escape, smoking, a rare lapse. End it, Ethan said, exhaling smoke like regret. Before it destroys us. Omar snatched the cigarette, grinding it out. No. We fight. The gig was transcendent, city energy fueling a set that bled soul, unshackled with Ethan joining for the bridge, unscripted, raw. Fans stormed barriers, lover tied. But hotel after, collapse, Ethan hyperventilating, panic attack clawing. Omar held him through it, breath sinking, whispers of here. Always. Dawn in Manhattan, they decided, pause the tour post-NYC, focus inward. Heal first, Omar said. Ethan nodded, tears salting his cheeks. Together. The spotlight dimmed, but in the quiet, their light endured, flickering, fierce. New York City thrummed with November's bite, the wind off the Hudson slicing through coats like unanswered questions, as Omar and Ethan navigated the post-show haze from Webster Hall. The gig had been a fever dream, sold out, sweat-drenched, with Unshackled trending worldwide, queer icons like Billy Porter tweeting props, but victory tasted bittersweet, laced with the lawsuit's shadow and the raw edges of their pact to pause. They checked into a low-key Airbnb in the West Village, a brownstone walk-up with creaky floors and a kitchenette overlooking cobblestones, far from the label's gilded cages. Unpacking felt ceremonial, Omar's guitar propped by the window, Ethan's laptop stowed in a drawer like a relic. 2 weeks, Omar said, zipping his duffel. No calls, no emails. Just us. Ethan nodded, but his eyes betrayed the churn. Landon suitor spectre, demands for depositions piling like snowdrifts. Therapy starts Monday. Zoom with Dr. Reyes, irony, huh? Omar smiled faintly, the shared last name a nod to roots. Fate or something. They ventured out, the city a balm, brunch at the Spotted Pig, crispy pork belly and mimosas, where conversation skirted the heavy, dipping into dreams deferred. Ethan confessed a boyhood wish to compose film scores, fingers itching for keys beyond management. You? He asked, syrup dripping from his fork. Own a studio, Omar replied, for kids like me, queer, brown, voiceless. Teach them to scream back. The image warmed, a horizon beyond tours. Afternoons blurred into wonders, Washington Square Park, where buskers strummed and activists tabled for trans rights, a matinee at Film Forum, Brokeback Mountain rewatch stirring quiet tears in the dark, hands clasped through the ache. Therapy unpacked the marrow, Dr. Reyes, a soft-spoken Latina with wire rims and empathy like sunlight, guiding them through timelines. Ethan Sessions peeled his armor, father's rejection manifesting as control, love equated with possession. I managed you to keep you, he admitted, voice cracking on screen. Feared if I let go, you'd see the cracks. Omar mirrored, I fled because the spotlight felt like erasure, your love the only real, then it dimmed, and I vanished. Homework followed, daily letters, no holds barred. Omar's first, scrawled on diner napkin, you taught me vulnerability is power. Forgive my doubts. Ethan's, typed on his phone, your light exposed my shadows. I'll step into them with you. Nights deepened the mend, cooking paella from Rosa's recipe, Ethan chopping peppers with clumsy focus, laughter bubbling when garlic burned. Bed became sanctuary, slow explorations, no rush, bodies relearning trust in murmurs and moans. Stay, Omar whispered once, Ethan's way to grounding force. But fractures resurfaced, a call from Marco, lawsuits heating. Velvet echoes countersuing for interference, shattering a quiet morning. Ethan paced the living room, phone to ear, his yes, aggressive echoing old boardroom barbs. Omar watched from the couch, journal open but blank, the old fear coiling, ambition as thief. Stop, he said post-call, voice edged. Ethan turned, brow furrowed. What? Managing again. Even now. It's protecting us. Defensiveness flared. Or controlling? The words escaped, therapy tools forgotten. Argument ignited, accusations of regression, tears streaking. Ethan stormed to the fire escape, city noise swallowing his sobs. Omar followed, sitting beside him in silence, the Hudson a distant shimmer. I'm scared, he admitted finally. Of losing the man, not the manager. Ethan leaned head on shoulder. Hes the same. Just learning. Truce in touch, they wrote amends, Omar vowing patience, Ethan boundaries on work. The city conspired in healing, a queer book club at McNally Jackson, discussing Lest by Andrew Sean Greer, laughter over wines as they shared parallels, love as detour, not dead end. A volunteer shift at the Ali Forney Center, serving dinner to homeless LGBTQ youth, Omar's stories met with wide eyes, Ethan's quiet listening a gift. One boy, Jamal, 14 with cornrows and defiance, cornered Omar post-shift. How do you know it gets better? Omar knelt, eye level. Didn't. Felt it in the music. In him. He nodded to Ethan, stacking chairs. Jamal grinned. Bet hes lucky. Nights out tempered solitude, karaoke at therapy, belting defying gravity to cheers, Ethan's off-key, tiny dancer drawing whoops. But vulnerability peaked at a poetry slam in Brooklyn, New Oracan Poets Cafe, where Omar read unshackled verses, voice trembling on lines of betrayal. The snapclaps thundered, but Ethan's tear-streaked face in the front row undid him. Post-slam, over empanadas at a hole in the wall, Ethan spoke unprompted. "Seeing you up there. I get it now. Your world's bigger than mine." Omar squeezed his hand. "Ours." Legal wind shifted, velvet echo suit gained traction, Landon's claims crumbling under scrutiny, emails proving sabotage. Victoria called truce, Ethan's welcome back, post settle. He declined, voice firm on speaker. "Starting my own. With Omar." The declaration freed something. Ethan dove into scores, tinkering on a rented keyboard, melodies for a short film Omar pitched, a queer road trip doc. Collaborations flowed, lyrics over breakfast, harmonies in showers. But crisis crested midweek, Rosa's health scare, flu turning pneumonia, her text sparse. Omar flew home alone, Ethan urging, "I'll hold the fort." Seattle enveloped, Rainier Valley Hospital, Rosa's room smelling of antiseptic and jasmine lotion. She gripped his hand, frail but fierce. "Too stubborn to go." He sang to her, soft echoes in the rain, tears mingling with monitor's beep. Ethan texted hourly, "Love you both. Home safe." Discharge brought family, cousins crowding her apartment, tamales steaming. Omar confessed Ethan's existence fully. "Hes good, mummy. Real." Rosa's smile beamed. "Bring him next time." Returning to NY, lighter, Omar found Ethan with a surprise, sheet music, Reyes Hayes, their film cue, strings swelling with hope. For the road ahead. They screened rough cuts in the brownstone, wine flowing, bodies curling post-credits. But doubt whispered, a tabloid blurb, Omar Reyes splits from Lover Manager. Fueled by Landon's leaks. Confrontation brewed over coffee, is it true? Omar asked, screen glowing. Ethan sighed. Half. The splits part. But lovers? Always. Laughter broke tension, but therapy unpacked, media as mirror to insecurities. Dr. Reyes assigned exposure, a joint Instagram post, subtle, hands intertwined at a park bench, caption building bridges. Responses flooded, support 90%, hate the rest. They blocked trolls, leaning on community, dinners with queer couples met at slams, stories of enduring. Week 2 climaxed at a gala, glad honors, Omar nominated for Breakthrough. Red carpet nerves jangled, but Ethan's arm steady, no hiding, just presence. Inside, speeches soared, Omar dedicating to the waiters, the fighters, eyes on Ethan, who mouthed, "You." After party buzzed, but they slipped out early, cab to the High Line, rails and wildflowers under stars. What now? Ethan asked, city lights haloing. Home, Omar said. Seattle. Our studio. Ethan kissed him, deep. Our life. Healing wasn't linear, spats over chores, silences after news alerts. But roots deepened, Ethan's score accepted, Omar's doc greenlit. In the brownstone's hush, they wrote a new chapter, lover's journey, not destination. As flights booked, Omar journaled, walked from spotlight, found the sun. He waited, as promised. Seattle reclaimed them in December's velvet dusk, the city a watercolor of evergreens dusted white, holiday lights twinkling like errant stars against the perpetual gray. The new year loomed, but for Omar and Ethan, time bent softer now, no tour schedules dictating days, just the rhythm of reconstruction in a queen and craftsman they co-signed, wide plank floors scarred by lives before, a bay window framing the sound, and a basement ripe for conversion into that dreamed studio. Movers hauled boxes amid laughter and curses, Ethan's pristine playlists clashing with Omar's vinyl chaos, but the space breathed possibility, walls echoing with half-formed songs. First weeks were domestic alchemy, Ethan mastering grocery runs to Capitol Hill Market, fumbling avocados for guac, Omar teaching him the art of pupuses, flour dusting counters like snow. Evenings unwound on the deck, heaters warding chill, mulled wine steaming as they plotted. The dock shoots spring, Omar said, sketching storyboards, queer pilgrims on Route 66, soundtracked by their cues. Your strings under my voice. Ethan grinned, sketching chord progressions on a napkin. And the studio? Open mics for the kids. June launch. Omar clinked glasses. Reyes Hayes Haven. The name sealed it, a monument to survival. Therapy continued in person now, Dr. Reyes commuting from Tacoma, her office a cozy nook overlooking Lake Union. Sessions delved deeper, Ethan's score for the doc unearthed buried grief, his mother's quiet acceptance post coming out, a letter read aloud that left him shattered, Omar holding space. Omar's turn exposed family fractures, Rosa's stoicism masking her own unspoken losses, a great-aunt who loved women in silence during El Salvador's upheavals. Healing ripples, Dr. Reyes noted. You too, a wave. Ripples manifested, Omar mentoring at the Central District Youth Club, guitar circles with teens like young Jamal, their riffs raw with rebellion. Ethan volunteered too, awkward at first, cracking jokes to ease ice, but finding footing in one-on-one chats, sharing his sensitive son scars. A girl named Sophia, 15 and Latina with fire in her eyes, bonded over composition. Your husband's lucky, she teased Omar one afternoon. He chuckled, ruffling her hair. Damn right. Publicly, they eased out, a joint variety profile, from spotlight to partnership, framing their story as triumph, not scandal. Landon suit crumbled, settled out of court with a gag order, his career a footnote. Fans embraced, Reyes Hayes trended, fanfic blooming with their likenesses in tender arcs. But intimacy tested, January's gloom mirrored inner clouds. A fight erupted over Ethan's freelance gig, a score for a straight-laced rom-com, XX demanding less queer undertones. Compromise, he argued, laptop glowing late. Omar bristled from the doorway, arms crossed. Or sell out. The word detonated, Ethan's retort, not everything's a statement. Escalating to slammed doors, Omar crashing on the couch. Dawn brought coffee truce, therapy unpacking, boundaries as love, not bars. We choose, Ethan said, handing a mug. Always. Choice defined spring, the doc filmed in bursts, Omar behind camera in Taos, Ethan scoring in a dusty motel, their nights under desert stars reaffirming in whispers. Rosa visited, meeting Ethan over her famous mole, her blessing a quiet, trata bien mi hijo. He did, anniversaries marked with islands getaways, San Juan's fog-shrouded hikes where proposals lingered unspoken, rings glinting in pouches. Crisis crested in April are a backlash wave, conservative outlets twisting the doc's trailer into indoctrination, boycotts called. Omar woke to hate mail, voice trembling on a call with Marco. They're scared, Ethan soothed, pulling him close. Of us. They countered with truth, a live stream from the Haven, unveiled early, basement aglow with mics and murals, Omar singing originals, Ethan on keys, youth joining chorus. Views soared, donations flooding for the center. GLAAD awarded them Allies of the Year, speeches weaving personal to universal, love waits, but it also fights, Omar said, Ethan's hand in his. Summer bloomed the Haven Grand, ribbon cut with Rosa wielding shears, Javier DJing, Sophia emceeing. Open mics drew crowds, queer elders sharing folk tales, trans poets spitting fire, Omar and Ethan performing unshackled, evolved, strings fuller, voices intertwined. Post-show, on the rooftop under Perseids, Ethan knelt, ring box velvet. Walked with you from shadows. Marry me. Omar pulled him up, kissing fierce. Yes. Always waiting. Wedding wove intimate, August, backyard affair in Fremont, arches of wildflowers, tamales and craft IPAs, Javier officiating with humor. Vows raw, Ethan's, you spotlighted my soul, Omar's, you held the dark. Dance floor pulse to their playlist, bodies swaying till dawn. Fall brought the doc's premiere, TIFF, standing ovation, distributors bidding. Post-screening party, Ethan whispered, our revolution. but humaneness deepened in quiet. Rosa's remission celebrated with family feasts, Ethan's reconciliation letter to his father, mailed without reply, but peace in the sending. Omar's solo album, Waiting Lights, dropped, tracks of Journey, Ethan co-credited, topping charts, but success secondary to lives built. One night, haven quiet, they sat on the deck, sound lapping. "Think we made it?" Ethan asked, head on Omar's shoulder. Omar traced his ring. "Making it. Every day."
I'm sorry.